Hi and welcome to Happy Kitty Kitchen. Today I'm making an interesting recipe I found online because I wanted a more palate challenging cookie. And it doesn't hurt that I get to use up my miso paste, which often gets forgotten in the fridge, and that makes me sad. I'm starting with browning the butter, which if you want a detailed video on, click the link in the video and in the description box. Then in a bowl we're adding in 1 cup of flour, which should come up to 190 grams of all-purpose flour, and a tablespoon of corn flour to make 200 grams total flour mix. You could substitute the corn flour with more all-purpose flour, but I find that corn flour adds a bit more structure and a crunch or flakiness to the dough. In hindsight, I should have sifted all the dry ingredients. That would have made it easier to mix and break apart any clumped up pieces. So that's my tip for you, sift all your dry ingredients. Here I'm just showing the progress on the butter, still has a long way to go. Then measure 1 1/4 cup of brown sugar, which should come up to 180 grams. I've got a teeny bit more than that in the bowl, but I don't mind. To the sugar, I'm adding in 2 tablespoons of milk. Now my favorite part, adding the miso, which if you're unfamiliar, it's a fermented soybean paste from Japanese cuisine. This packs a punch of umami and can be used for sweet and savory dishes. So adding in 2 tablespoons of that into the sugar and milk and mixing everything together until smooth. Miso paste, like pickles, can last years in your fridge if you handle it properly, and I've had mine for 2 years and it has yet to be contaminated or go bad, and I like to store mine in the freezer. Add in vanilla essence for flavoring. The recipe calls for 1 large egg, but I only have small ones, so I substituted with 2 small eggs. I also weighed them to give a more accurate measurement, so about 90 grams of egg turned out perfectly for this recipe. Then I add them to the sugar mix bowl. Now while I'm waiting for the butter to brown, I'm chopping up 80% dark chocolate. I prefer using chocolate bars instead of chocolate chips. They just taste much better in my opinion, and they melt beautifully inside the cookie. My butter is finely browned, and you'll know from the smell and the appearance. I sifted to separate the milk solids, and I like to point out that you should not throw away those milk solids. You can throw them back in the batter if you want, or save them for something else for later, but they just add a lot of depth of flavor. Give them a taste to see for yourself. So usually you should wait for the butter to cool down before adding it in the sugar mix, otherwise it will cook the eggs in there and ruin everything. But I don't want to wait. I had places to go and things to do, so I did something a bit unconventional. I added the butter to the flour mix. That way the temperature of the butter will instantly cool down, and perhaps it's going to toast the flour just a little bit, which is no harm in my opinion. I take a bit and put it on my finger just to check the temperature, and now that it's cool enough, I add in the sugar and mix everything up. I did end up adding in about 1/4 to 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour, but essentially, even if you think this whole batter is too runny, it's gonna need to chill so it can be managed and shaped better. So don't panic that it looks too gooey. Pop it in the freezer for about 2 hours or the fridge overnight. Later in the evening, I start taking out teaspoonfuls of the batter and very lazily shape them on the cookie pan. I always put baking paper because it keeps the bottoms from burning and it makes cleaning the pan much easier. I really wish I had taken a better video of the end results, but don't let the appearance of these cookies and the video fool you. This was a masterpiece of a recipe. I did not do it justice. It was so delicious, gooey and crunchy at the same time, salty and sweet. It had so much depth, and honestly, it won my heart over. I urge you to try it. I've linked the original recipe in the description box if you want to check out more recipes from the same creator. And if you've made it this far into the video, as usual, have a great day from Happy Kitty Kitchen. Bye!